Hello, today we're going to talk about the overwhelmingly amount of tips that comes with your pyrography tools. The different tools that there are and the different types of tips they are, and what I like to use and how I use them. They get, this type from Coldwell, and then you got these here. These are the regular wire nibs. These are a little bit more, type of tool it is. And I'm not really going to talk about this one here. The only reason is I don't like it. It's just not as safe. You can use it. It's just not safe to use. You have to wait for it to cool off before you unscrew this. So the process is very long, waiting for it to cool off, making sure it's cooled off so that when you start untwisting it, you don't burn it. So we're not going to use this. The machines that I'm going to work with, I'm going to work with one of my old machines here, which is, it was okay, got it off Amazon, nice and cheap. I enjoyed it, but the heat didn't really get controlled as well, but it's definitely a great purchase to have. What I do use now is Coldwell Detailer and Super Pro. I love these. I find that the heat stays consistent, but the biggest part is making sure that the tips are clean from the carbon. So we get that focused a little bit. I'll get that focused better. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go over with the shading, what I use for shading, what I use for line work, and what I use for lettering. All right, without further ado, let's get into this video. All right, so first I'm going to get into this pyrography tool. It's all the basic setup that you can get. They're relatively inexpensive. You can get anywhere from $45, $100. You get the tool setup. What I like about these is, it's still not quite as safe because you have to just unscrew it and then take this to pop it out. All right, so it's great. You can still change them, but you're still kind of getting a little close to with the heat. These different tips here. So this top row, as you can see, are the ones that I used the most. This one here, I'm gonna pick it up with tweezers because my hands are really big. So this has got like a little ball at the tip of it. They have different size ones. These are great for lettering, any type of like round line work that you have to do curves, because what it does is it helps glide around. It's not great for shading unless you're doing stippling. This one here, also great for lettering and line work that has curves, and you can do shading with it too. I really love this type of tip here. These are basically nice shaders. I had bent this one. They come very straight. I bent it with needle nose pliers while it's cold. You don't want to do it when it's hot. And you want to do it very slowly in small increments until you get the bend, or else you'll break the wire. But anyway, great for shading, and you can do nice straight lines. It's not going to do a good curved line for you. And that's really all of these here. They're all basically the same. A little example, this is the way this one came. It's all nice and straight. And what I did was I bent it slightly so that when I'm working, I had a nice flat surface that I wasn't going like this with my tool. I was able to bend it down like that. Let me show you with this here. See, with this one here, you have to, you're almost flat. You're not using that whole piece. While when it's bent, it's got that nice little angle to it. So it worked really well. All these other tips here, they're great. I mean, I've used them, but I'm getting the same result from basically this top row here. So definitely try around, play with them. Hey, if it works for you, it works. There is no right or wrong way to use these tips. So as long as you know that they get very hot, and don't touch them with your hands, and you get up to use the restroom or something, just make sure you turn the machine off. You have a hot piece of metal just lying around unsupervised. Accidents happen, so you want to make sure that you just follow all the safety precautions. And like I said, somebody's telling you you're using the tip the wrong way, but you're getting the results that you want out of it, then you're using it the right way. Somebody that went to many years of art school, spent a lot of money with art school, student loans and everything like that, I can tell you that there is no right or wrong way to create art. If it works for you, it works. Just knowing the basics, that's it. These here are Coldwells. There's another brand called Razor Tip that makes the same kind of setup. I love these because it's a little bit more safer. You get this little thing here. You grip it and it just pulls out. It's a little stiff because I haven't taken it out in a while. And just put it away. All right. So these are all the tips that I had purchased, but I don't use them all. You know, I'm finding that I'm getting a lot out of one or two of the tips, which you'll see in the video. This is my main workhorse. This I can do so much with the exception of writing. But shading, lines, curves, everything I get with this one tip, and I can get fine detail with it as well. This one here is my main writing tip. Let's see if I can get that in focus. I'm sorry, that's the shader. See, my eyes aren't that great. There it is. So this one I do a lot of my lettering with. Basically, nice little curve to it, and I can do a lot of lettering, do a lot of my signatures with it. If I need to get really fine detail, I have a smaller one. It's basically the thickness of the metal, and it's completely rounded, so I can do some nice lettering with that. All right, so that's pretty much it on all the different types of tips. Like I said, if it works for you, then it works. But this is kind of gonna give you a basics of what they can be used for and how I use them. And then you can go from there and experiment, play with the different ones. If you like using this type, then that's your tip. All right, so let's start creating some shading and lines. All right, before we begin, I kind of want to go over making sure that your tips are clean from the carbon. You can see on here how there's buildup. Can you see it very well? They're not as newer looking as I can't find. Here's one that's pretty new looking. All right, so the way you want to clean them is you can start off with one of these wire brushes. These are great, but just make sure you get the brass one. The brass won't rust. If you get the steel one, it'll rust over time, and you're just going to be brushing the rust onto your wire tips. So get a brass one. They're cheap. They're like $1 or something like that. And you can kind of just do this, and I do this a lot while I'm working, because you can do it while it's hot. And gets nice and clean right away. So that all came off really nice. If you're finding that it's not coming off, here's a good example of one that's quite black and it's probably not going to come off if I go to scrape it. Not as well. So you can get a piece of sandpaper and just, so this is a 400 grit sponge sandpaper. I like this because you can clean it afterwards. And just lightly sand it. Just until you start seeing that shiny metal pop through. And it should be all nice and clean for you. All right. So this is another one here that's pretty. All right, so by making sure you have these nice and clear and the metal going back to the way it was, it'll make your burning process go that much easier. All right, so let's turn this machine on here. I'm gonna start off with the one that everybody seems to be getting, that I also got, that you can get on Amazon. And like I said, this works really well. Just make sure my heat setting is good. Right now on this particular machine, it's at 450. That's probably like around 4.5 on the cold wheel, because they go numbers 0 to 10, while on this particular machine it goes from 250 to 700. So you really just have to know your machine. So this is at 450 and it's burning a little quick. So I'm going to drop it a little bit more. The other thing you want to do is you don't want to get these tips super hot red. You don't have to, and it'll decrease the life of the tip. All right, so that's nice and got a nice heat to it. So this one here is the one that I like to use for writing, line drawings, shading. It's really just about universal. You're just not going to get that razor crisp line with it, but you can. So instead of going like that, you would just turn it onto its side. See, this heat's a little hot. And you can make a nice line with it. Now pushing, making a line, you can do it. It goes. But you could skip it. So when you pull, you can get the line a little bit better. And one thing that I do is, if I want to make hairs, right, I would start slow and fast. See, I still got this heat a little hot. You have to excuse me, I haven't used this machine in a long time, so I can't quite remember the settings that I was always at. So when I was talking about heat being controlled, that's what I mean about this machine here. It's working, but as I'm using this tip, it's cooling down rapidly on me. So I'm getting not a very consistent controlled burn with it. But as you can see, it works. You can do it. You just have to be patient and work with it. So like I turned it to that side. and I can kind of start shading in with it. What I tend to do is I do circular patterns when I'm shading. I find it has a really nice look, leathery, and get a little bit of a smoother shade. Other people, they do hash lines. Yeah, see, it's, there we go. But you tend to get like some dots when you pick it up. But it's working. And like I said, this one can also be doing the lettering. So if I'm doing my signature, that's what I mean, that when it has that roundedness to it, you can really get lettering done. And lines and shading. So this can really be your universal tip. It was for me for a while. You'll find that there's a tip out there that you like and that you're going to be constantly using. So a nice even circles. You don't want to keep on it too long because then you're going to get hot spots. So make sure you have the same rhythm as your shading. And when I was talking about when it gets too hot, let's crank this thing up to where it starts to go red on me. All right. I'll just go all the way. All right, so right now it's past the 750. And there it goes. It's starting to go red. See, it's also taken this particular machine, it's taken a long time for it to heat up. Not that long, but longer than I'm used to. All right. So you'll also see on a lot of videos people doing wood burns with it this hot. You can. It's absolutely fine. But it burns real quick. And I don't know how well you can see it, but it's leaving a bleed. So if you want that, then by all means. But with it being this hot, it's really digging into the wood. And I'm only getting really one gradient, and that is jet black. And if you leave it on too long, get that little bit of a flame going. Great for a dramatic effect when you're making the video. There we go. All right. All right. With all that smoke that I just created, it brings up a good point. If you have asthma, what you can do is get yourself a regular respiratory mask, a HEPA filter or something like that, or even the masks that we wore during COVID just to keep it out of your face and help with your asthma. Or you can get one of these fans here. This I got on Amazon. I haven't really used it yet, but what it does is it's got a little filter in the front, sucks the smoke in, pushes it out the back. It's kind of like a computer fan. You can get one of these, have it set up, and you can clear the air with the smoke. The reason why I haven't used it is because I never really have it going that hot where it is creating that much smoke in one shot. I'm not going to say I've never done it, because I have. Dramatic effects on a video, or I wanted to go quicker with making something really hot. And this is what I mean by, with this particular setup, is you unscrew these, I don't know if this tip is still that hot. I can probably touch it, but when I'm changing it and this is still really hot, I just take my screwdriver and I pop it into the bin. Okay, let's go with a shader. That's close to what I'm used to. All right. All right, when you put it back in, I want to make sure that it's all the way in. So what I do is I push down before I start tightening this. All right. Let's turn the machine back on. Right now I am just at 400 with it. I'm gonna need a new test piece here soon. All right, like I said, this one I set up as a large shader so that I can do a lot of shading. I don't really have this bent too much, so I have to kind of flatten this down because of the thickness of the handle. And same thing, nice circular patterns. When you're doing shading, you want to try and have the heat on a very low setting. You can always burn darker by just staying in the area longer. And you can get a nice gradient shade. So let's try it on over here. All right, I have it nice and light. I'm going back over it. So I'm staying longer, gets darker. It's always good to burn lightly first and go darker as needed. If you start off with it too hot and you start burning too quickly, you're not going to bring out those highlights unless you grab a piece of sandpaper and you go back in it and you start sanding and really sanding down into the wood past the burn. And you can't always get it back to the clean wood because it could have burnt pretty far in. But by doing these small circular patterns, I find for me, it creates a really nice gradient effect. And I just control the burn by my speed. All right, let's see if I can get that a little bit more dramatic on the film there. All right, see how nice and dark that is? I can match that darkness without having to make this tip extremely red hot. And I'm not going to dig into the wood. By digging into the wood, I mean when it burns really quick, the tip just sinks right into the wood and it creates a bunch of texture lines. Great if you want that texture. But if you don't want that texture, if you're doing somebody's, like a portrait of somebody, you're not going to want that texture on the skin. Unless you do. Unless you want to, have that Rembrandt-y looking brush strokes. If you want a really nice smooth transition, start with low heat and just keep working over it. All right, and now like I said on this one here, this can also be a look doing lines, and this will give you like a razor tip line. Just turn it onto the side and just you can do your hairs with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn and use the top of the tip. And this should be relaxing, not frustrating, not stressful. If you're getting the same results from a different tip that I'm using, then that's the tip for you and it's working. All that really matters is the end results of this. Try and get some definition into the hair. So if you notice, I haven't been changing my heat setting. What I'm doing is I'm changing the speed that I'm working. If I want it darker, I just go slower. If I want it faster, I do a little, lighter, I go a little bit of faster lines. All right. And then I want to show you that you can't, I have trouble making curves with this type of tip. See, it doesn't want to curve because it's too sharp. That's why you want those rounded. I'm spinning it pretty well, but it's not turning for me. So I wouldn't use this one for any type of curves that you have to do. If you're doing a straight line like hairs or a border, then this works, but also the shading. All right, so let's flip that machine off. And let me use one of the ballpoint ones. I'm going to use a larger ballpoint just to make it show a little bit more in the video. Machine back on. Clean that off a little bit. Thought I cleaned this one. That was the other one. Let's see. I see what my problem is. All right, see, it's not heating up that quick. Because see down here, it's pretty filled up with carbon. And what that's doing is just kind of blocking the heat from coming through nicely. It'll heat up if you crank up the heat. All right, that should work. All right. Raise the heat a little bit. I might have burnt this tip out a while ago. They do kind of tend to, seems like anyway, that they wear out after time. Like when I find that I have to start increasing the heat more than I used to, then I purchase a new tip. Even after cleaning it, I'm still having trouble getting the heat up. Yeah, this one I'm having trouble getting the heat up. So I'm just gonna switch over to another one. And watch your fingers on this part. It gets a little warm. There it goes. All right. So just like that first one that I showed you that was rounded, wasn't that straight cut like the last. The same thing. You can do nice circles, lines, and lettering. All right. And you can also shade with this one really nicely. Just get a better shade. Do a circle this time. All right, and same thing with hairs. You can do hairs with it. See how it's kind of got that little ball at that tip there? And that's what I mean by the heat doesn't stay really consistent. Finding that it's jumping on this particular tip. Sometimes the heat's too much, but in this particular case, I know my heat's good. It's just it's cooling down as I'm touching the wood with it. All right, let's switch over to the other machine. Okay, so this is my cold wood. Let me just get my wires a little bit. All right, sorry about that. This is my cold wood. This is my universal tip that I use. I use it for just about an entire piece. I can do my straight lines, shading, obviously not so much with the curves, but I work around that. Turn it on. Our test piece. All right, you can see how much faster that just heated up. All right. So this particular one is an S tip. That's at least, you know, Caldwell has a lot of, they all have the names, but some of them go by numbers. But this one here is an S tip. All right. So what I mean by I can do the curves, I just very gently touch the wood with it, and I can get my curves with it. Same way. Do my lines, do my stippling. Obviously it's not round dots. Do my hairs with it. You can almost hear that it's carving right in to the wood. It's almost like it's scraping. And now my shading. Make a bigger circle. So you can definitely tell how much quicker I'm working with this machine than the other one, because the heat is staying consistent. It's not cooling down as quickly when I'm touching the wood with it. I haven't changed my settings. It's still the same. And look how much faster I'm getting to that darkness that I want. And it's not leaving any lines or indentations. Let's try that again. Let's see. So I'm going to start off . All right. Same thing, the line, nice straight line. I had also bent this tip. Originally, it was straight. I don't have a new one of it, but that came straight out, and I bent it to give it that curve so that I can hold my tool, you know, more like that on the paper. And yes, you can burn on paper. This is watercolor paper, and you can burn on it, see? It's not gonna catch the paper on fire, so as long as you don't hold it on there too long. But right now I have it on the paper. It's burning in. So with pyrography tools, you can burn on wood, paper, leather. I wouldn't burn plastic, but a lot of people, they work on leather, they work on paper, or they work on wood. All right, let's change this one tip out. And you can hear the click. So every time I go to change a tip out, I always make sure the machine is off before I start messing around. Let's get the one that I use for writing. All right. Now I have 3 pens all set up with the 3 tips that I use. That's why I have the 2 machines. So it's all set up and ready to go, so I don't have to change the tip out. You don't have to do that. You can work with one and change it out. See, my other machine's already set up for the temperature for this particular tip. All right, so same thing. This one with the writing. So, like I said, when I use this for my signatures, just like that. You can do nice curves. Glows, it flows really nicely. And you can also shade with it. If you have some fine detailing work to do. Also do the hairs. I would definitely suggest using the straighter edge one for the hair, unless you're gonna have this as your base and then you go back in, because the lines aren't as crisp. And that's just the nature of it being rounded, and it's not what they call a razor tip edge. All right, so that's really it on all the different ones that I use. Again, whatever works for you. I had purchased this one. I used it a few times. I'll probably use it again at some point, but I'm just finding that this S-style one, I can't put it down. It's just been using it so much, it's so versatile. You know, this is my little tiny ballpoint one for doing really fine detail work, lettering. There's another one that I purchased, barely used. You know, I used it like a few times. So whatever works for you. If you use a tip like this and you find that you're getting a lot of your results out of it, then that's the tip for you. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this kind of helped you out a little bit more on all these different tips, the different machines, and the shading techniques, and how I use each of these tips that I use. All right, so please like and share and follow if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks.